in the military, you can go into consensus thinking, consensus trance very easily because killing is very one-dimensional. What we do, weaving velvet and other things like that are very, very creative by nature. So you're not going to be good at it unless you're very creative, out-of-the-box thinker. If you're looking to kill someone, that's very straightforward. We weave velvet, so even if someone's dying, they're getting hung in a tribunal. And you know, there are two ways to skin a cat, or there are two ways to kill a cat. One, you can skin it and get all bloody, which is fine. I mean, he's dead. Or you can hang him. But sometimes the laws say you got to hang him. Right now, the game is weaving velvet. If you want to get a rabbit or you want to get a cat, you're going to have to hang him. If you deal steel or you poison him or something like that, well, you could be set up by someone else, and that's a big game now. You know, set up the Russians, make it look like it poisoned someone. Well, it's hard to prove because they most likely didn't do it. When the Russians do something, they don't get caught. They're that good. But that just goes to show you the game. I know what you're saying. You don't like the game and everything else. Well, practical politics, full spectrum, practical politics are the antithesis of conventional politics, although they can encompass that. Yes, if you don't understand practical politics or how to use a talking point, you can't do anything with conventional politics. And you can never ever do anything at all with full spectrum practical politics. But that's the game that's going. That's the game that's going on right now. I'm here to introduce you to that game simply because a lot of you are in consensus type thinking. You're developing a consensus from reading Amarin or reading too many. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with staying up to date. But even if you're hardcore and in the military and you can build bombs, that doesn't mean that you can't fall into consensus type thinking or consensus trance. Because anytime you go through basic training, anytime you go through a boot camp, maybe you're a lone wolf, undercover lover looking to blow kisses. Who knows what you got buried in that park behind your house? I don't know. I don't care. But you can still easily fall into a consensus trance because you're only thinking one dimension. Dealing steel is like that. Thinking of, maybe you're a police officer and you think of grabbing that M14 and dealing steel like it's cornmeal, and you're an undercover lover, call yourself one of these steel AI lone wolfers. Well, you're easily in a consensus trance. There's many dimensions to this game, and the game right now is not dealing steel. If you do that, you're going to go to jail for a long time, and you're not going to be that useful. Now, next week, that game could be up. Next week, your number could be up. Next week, it may be playing basketball. But right now, it's playing baseball. Right now, it's a different game. It's weaving velvet. They don't do that anymore. We don't do that. It's not to say it's not useful. It's not to say that it's not useful that you know about that. Knowing military tactics and whatever. But they're very one-dimensional. For instance, maybe you were in the military and they told you if incoming mortar is coming, you run out on angles. That type of thing. Those are hard and fast rules, and they work. They work very well. Keep that in mind. But you see, the type of weapons we use cannot be protected against. You can run out on angles and survive a mortar, but you cannot survive that sound of it coming in. That sound is horrifying. Believe me, sound is like that. Most of you have underestimated sound. Sound is something that our enemy fears the most. They say words can hurt, and they're right. You don't know how right they are. But that's what we're here to do. We're here to put you on consistent talking points right now. We are 15 years into neutralization of demoralization. You're not demoralized anymore. There's a whole generation that is actually fanaticized. There was a study done, and every single, I'll tell you about one I saw firsthand. There was about 30-some young people, all white. And it was asked how many of them have been discriminated against for being white. This was in North America, somewhere in North America. All of them raised their hand but one. Then they were asked how many of them were discriminated against by white people in an authority position. About 90% of them. That's funny. That's a common sense of oppression. That is very rare. That is wild stuff. Many of you old-timers are scratching your head looking at these youngsters. They are very, very radicalized. Much more than anything the world has seen. There's other organizations, even in places like China, that are scared to death of what has been created indirectly by some of this stuff. It's nature. We're not looking for any particular scenario. We want everybody to get what we want, but we want our own white rabbit hole. We already know that score, but there's a totally different game going on than you think is going on. Most of you are looking for one dimension. You're looking to deal steel because you're in a consensus trance. That's not useful. For you to be useful right now, you have to be available right now. You have to be a little more creative. That doesn't mean your number won't come up. But let me explain something to you. There's nothing you can't do under the laws of warfare that I can't do under the laws of velvet. In fact, velvet is more humiliating because there is no way to protect yourself from sound. You can put on a bulletproof vest and protect yourself from a bullet. You can't protect yourself from the right words spoken. No, you can't. It's that "hit me, baby, one more time" that Britney Spears gave you that just ripped through your mind. It's that "help me, help you" from that Tom Cruise movie. It's that "oh, yes, we can." Now, I know what you're saying, that if you hit a talking point, someone may snag you up or whatever. Well, that can happen. When Obama first, they issued his good talking points of "oh, yes, we can," it was very effectively timed. You can shut down the first couple groups that do it, but because there's nothing illegal going on, there's nothing you can do once it takes traction. It can become kind of funny. But the game we play is a little bit more dynamic. It's weaving velvet, but the first thing you need to understand is a talking point and how to stay on point. But consensus thinking and consensus trance is something I want you to be aware of on a mental level. I'm not looking to talk to any type of specific person. I don't care. I play a simple game. Me a white rabbit, you a white rabbit. I'm not looking for any specific scenarios. We're here to achieve an objective. The first objective is to let you know how to become visible if you need to become visible. Someone becomes visible if they hit a talking point, they stay on talking point. But it's a little bit more dynamic than that. Yes, it is. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more. But consensus thinking is something that I've always strived to break out of, and I was successful enough to do that to get noticed by somebody. But consensus trance is something that I never try to put myself in, and it's very easy if you just deal steel. It's something I see all the time. If you have someone that just knows how to kill people, well, that's a consensus trance. It's useful for a military, but it's not useful for if everyone's weaving velvet. You won't be any good at doing what we do if you're a one-dimensional thinker. Just sit out, your game will be up. And no one's by any means saying you should say something. You should know what to say, when to say it. That's what talking points do. That's all it is. It's that simple. But consensus trance and consensus think is something I'm going to come back to. For instance, I did a study. We looked at the internet. We looked at the type of aliens people were seeing. That's something you never thought of. There's two types of common aliens people see. Well, actually, there's three types. Two types are extraterrestrial. One I've seen all the time. Two types. One's a green lizard. Well, I've seen that on a Geico commercial. A talking green lizard, some kind of green lizard. Another is a little slitty-eyed gray alien. We see those on the Discovery Channel. I've never seen one in person. Not to say they now don't exist. I don't know. There's another type of alien that was very common all over the globe. Now, this is in every language. When I say the research was done, it wasn't done in just English. It was done in every language. Another type of alien has become very, very common over the past 50 years. Well, that alien is shockingly familiar to something I've seen when I look in the mirror. Yes, he's white. Very strange extraterrestrial, but that's the type of thing that you don't think of. That's what I point out. I point out the obvious. You see, you've heard phrases like "worse is better." That's a good phrase. That's a steel term. I deal like the more obvious, the better. I point out the obvious. We point out the turn of the punch bowl, and we do it again and again. The more you do it, the more it becomes effective in a society that's become demoralized, but yet is coming out. It's geared for right now. Remember, we're probably talking in 2009, late 2008. So it's right now. You worried about who got elected? Don't worry about that. To worry about what's in front of you, what you can control. Don't become idealistic. I'm not idealistic. You think politics is idealistic? It's not. What I do isn't idealistic at all. It's achieving objectives by any means necessary, political, using the law against the law, using the rules against the law, but rules against rules, but we don't break them. We don't have to. Everything you want to do can be achieved under the law. Someone in Russia wanted to deport Georgians. When the Georgians accidentally attacked Russia, they ended up deporting every single Georgia. They screamed human rights violations, but they didn't get the call. Why? It's international law. The Russians were abiding by the law, but they don't break it. They don't give anyone a target. Very clean. And he deported millions of them at the blink of an eye. Very interesting scenario, but and it's the full spectrum practical politics need not involve warfare, but it can. It just doesn't involve breaking any laws. You see, you can go to war under the law, but you can only go into war under certain conditions, or you can get yourself in human rights and so on and so forth, etc. I'm going to go into this. It's very dynamic. It's something you've seen played in front of you. Maybe it was played against you. You didn't know it. but I'm going to go into this more, and we'll keep this conversation alive. But I need to prep you on these topics before I give you talking points, because that's kind of irrelevant for me to issue talking points, and because they're so simple and for you not to understand how it works. But you cannot escape sound. You cannot escape sound. Sound is killing. Sound can kill. Yes, it can. Harmonics are everything. No one on this planet escaped. I